Hey everyone, it's Evan Kirstel here from Boston, and I'm here with one of my favorite personalities, futurists, authors, thought leaders in the world of technology, Daniel Burris. Daniel, how are you?
Hey, I am doing great, and thank you so much for putting us together and having us get out there to the world.
Well, I've been following you and consuming your content and thought leadership and writing for years, so it's an absolute honor to have you here in my Twitter profile. But for the folks who aren't familiar with Daniel Burris and your body of work, could you give us some background on who is Daniel Burris, where you've come from, and what you do actually with clients, but also the general tech audience out there?
Well, I'll kind of go through that pretty quickly because one of the things I love to do is to help people out, and we want to spend a little time doing that. But very quickly, I started out teaching biology and physics for a number of years. Was good at it. Got an Educator of the Year award my first year, so I was kind of put on the planet to teach. That was one of the things I discovered long ago. I ended up starting 6 companies altogether. 5 were profitable in the first year. 4 were national leaders. One of them was in the field of aviation. I never realized I'd be a test pilot, but did that. And the plane literally took off and did quite well, as well as other businesses that I did, all very disruptive, doing new things. I share that not in a bragging way, but rather to give a context to, I don't just write books and give speeches, but I've actually started companies that were successful. And I think the 2 most important moments in a person's life is the day you find out you're born, the day you're born, and the day you find out why you were born. So again, I love teaching. So I started the companies, and 38 years ago, whoa, does time fly, I started Burrus Research, my core company. And what we do is research global innovations in all areas of technology: lasers, robots, genetics, artificial intelligence, expert systems, you name it. We've been doing it for 38 years, have a number of newsletters, special publications. I've given over 3,000 keynote speeches over the decades, all over the world. I think the last time I was in Beijing, I had 14,000. So with 30 different languages being translated. So I had some pretty big ones. I do strategic advising. I'm on a number of advisory boards. Worked with everything from the Pentagon, which I'm in their futures group, to the companies like the Googles and the others, but smaller companies as well. All of my work is really geared around a couple of key things. And that is, I would like us to be actively shaping the future rather than passively receiving it with a wait and see mentality. I'd rather us to be actively shaping a better tomorrow for ourselves and for others. Secondly, there is so much to react to. There's so much uncertainty. We react all the time. Crisis managed change is constantly coming to us, and the pandemic even gave us more of it. So what I'm helping people to do is to realize that they can also find certainty in this uncertain world. And I do that with my hard trend, soft trend methodology that I've been teaching over the decades, and with the 7 books that I've written, and all of the publications that I put out. And the idea there is that when you have certainty, you have the confidence to make bold moves. So getting people to be positive disruptors. Now I'm stop there and let that sink in, because we all think disruption. Now we don't like disruption, because disruption makes us do something. Gee, I got to act now. I got to change. Oh, gee, we don't like change. But Bezos and Musk and others, do they like disruption or do they hate it? Oh, no, it's the people that they're disrupting that don't like it. So I want people to realize there's never been more opportunity than right now to be a positive disruptor, creating the transformations that need to happen to elevate your relevancy, to accelerate innovation and growth, and actively shape a better future for yourself and for others. That's really what I'm all about.
That is a lot to take on. And I want to go back a few decades, because I look at your body of work going back to the 80s, when you talked about disruption and change and the roadmap that we had ahead of us. And your future predictions were incredibly on target. How did you manage to predict the world to such a degree of certainty that we're surrounded by today. Like looking back, like what was your approach that was so unique and on target?
Well, thank you for asking that. Again, I come with a research background. Again, very few people would know this because I don't publish it anywhere, but I actually got a federal research grant when I was an undergraduate in college. So I only say that to let you know I'm kind of a researchy guy. And so what I did was I spent way back in 1983, when many of us were using DOS, I spent a little over a year after selling some businesses and really did a deep dive into researching global innovations in all the areas of science and technology. And I was spending 18-hour days, 6-7 days a week. I was young and just went all for it. And I want to tell you what I had. It's pretty interesting. I really got an epiphany, because after about a year of that, really just deep concentration, all of a sudden I saw the future. I saw the future we're in now, and the future even beyond where we're at now. I saw smartphones, I saw fiber optics, I saw genetic engineering, I saw all this stuff. What am I going to do? Run out in the street and say, I saw the future? No, I have to do something with it. So one of the things I did was I came up with a taxonomy of high technology, a way of organizing all of these new things. So when you come up with a new type of laser, let's say, that can screw a thread into a piece of metal, but it's done with a laser. How does it do that? When you hear that, or when you hear about a paint that absorbs energy in the evening and glows the color of the paint during, the reverse, absorbs the energy of the sun during the day and glows the color of the paint at night. Those kind of things excite me, because I think of how can we use those? What are the ways that we can use those to, again, create a better tomorrow? So I came up with a methodology, and that is, there's no shortage of trends. Let's face it, the problem is, when will they happen? And which ones will happen? So I've divided all trends into one of two categories. They're either hard trends based on future facts that will happen. The key here is they cannot be stopped. They are going to happen. And by the way, that's how you get certainty in an uncertain world and can make some very accurate forecasts. The other type of trends is a soft trend. And a soft trend is based on an assumption about the future that may or may not happen. Now, it doesn't mean it won't happen, but when it comes to being an entrepreneur and risk, there's more risk in uncertainty than there is in certainty. So understanding that. So couple things I'm teaching right now. All trends are either hard trends based on a future fact that will happen, or a soft trend based on an assumption. The second thing I want to teach right now is that a trend by itself is boring. Who cares? Until you attach an opportunity to it. The minute you attach an opportunity to a trend, it bursts into actionable life. So with hard trends, again, these are the things we can see coming. These are the future facts. I mean, after 5G, is that it? No, we're going to have 6G followed by 7. And we're putting a lot in the cloud. Well, is it going to get full? No, it's not going to get full. And are baby boomers all of a sudden going to get young? No, they're not going to get young. And will we have more government regulations on cybersecurity, regardless of whether it's the Democrats or Republicans in charge? And the answer is yes, because there's some hard trends at play we have to deal with. There's some other things we'll debate. So when you start understanding the power of certainty and tying, again, an opportunity to it. So hard trends, the opportunity is you can see disruptions before they disrupt, giving you the choice to be the disruptor or the disrupted. By the way, you're going to be one or the other. There's no middle. Secondly, this is a really big one. It lets you predict problems before you have them so you can pre-solve them. How many times have we all said, well, I knew that was going to happen. Well, then why did you let it? So just think about what's going on right now on this planet. If we continue to react to change, no matter how agile we are, which is a reactionary strategy, that's just fast reacting. So if we continue to react to problems after they occur, we're not going to be happy campers on this planet. We're going to have to start anticipating them and pre-solving them so we can get ahead of the game. soft trends, what's the opportunity? Is there any value in those? And the answer is yes, I love soft trends. Why? Because if you don't like them, you can change them. They are not a future fact. They're based on something that is fully changeable. So if healthcare costs are going up, and they've been going up, by the way, in this country, the United States, for a long time, which is a trend, we might think, well, that's the way it's going to be. That's maybe a future fact, but it isn't. That can be changed, and technology could bring the cost down, or we could let it continue to go up. Maybe your business, maybe your restaurant, maybe your dry cleaners, maybe your whatever company you have, maybe you've been hurt by the global pandemic and sales have gone down, and it looks like with the Delta variant, it's going to continue to go down. Well, that's soft. You could write it down, or you could become more profitable by doing something else and taking advantage of what is taking place. Because whenever anything bad happens, something good happens. And when everything good happens, something bad happens. It's good to take a look at both sides. So the advantage of soft trends, don't like them, you can change them. Advantage of a hard trend, you can see change and disruption before it disrupts, giving you some huge advantages.
Fascinating. Well, change is opportunity, as they say. Looking past the last decade or two, what trend, hard or soft, were you most surprised by, either from the upside, positive, or the negative? Is there one particular trend that comes to mind?
Yes, I think the speed of the disinformation age. Now, we started out in the information age. By the way, that was way back in the 80s. And I wrote 4 books in the late 80s, and I talked about, well, what's next will be the communication age, brought to us by wireless and digital and so on, which we are in now. And unfortunately, as a tool, social media can also be used as a huge disinformation tool. By the way, I'm using the word disinformation versus misinformation on purpose. I would define disinformation as believed misinformation. And there are ways of crafting that. Unfortunately, it can be used to do all kinds of bad things to us. So we're currently in a disinformation age that's growing, but I'd like to suggest that's a soft trend. We could indeed do something about that now, and we could reverse that. And eventually we will. The key is, how much will we suffer before we do it? It's kind of like we can deny a bunch of things until all of a sudden your house is on fire, and then it's like, oh, I guess I have to do something. Or we can kind of see the fire coming and take some actions to keep the house from burning. So again, what I'm really teaching is the title of my last book, The Anticipatory Organization. What I'd really like us to be is much more anticipatory and much less reactionary. And by the way, you'll continue to have to react. There are things you can't predict. There are things that just come along, but there are also so many things you can predict. And when it comes to healthcare, the future, well, predict and prevent is a lot better than break and fix. And that could be true of many other areas as well.
So exciting. So you talk a lot about business and leadership and management. Tell us about your notion of an anticipatory leader. I mean, what is the difference between a manager of a business and an anticipatory leader?
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And as a matter of fact, when I started my learning systems, which I'd like to proudly say is an award winner, I started not with the Anticipatory Leader, which is one of my learning systems. I actually started with the Anticipatory Organization. And the reason is, if there's one person in an organization that's anticipatory and everyone else is reactionary, they're not going to be happy campers. So it's better to create an anticipatory culture that has a shared and common language and new ways of solving problems and shaping the future together. So an anticipatory leader would be someone that understands how to find certainty in an uncertain world, is using the power of hard trends and soft trends to actively shape the future rather than passively receive it. and has made change their biggest competitive advantage instead of their worst nightmare. And so they've learned that disruption actually can be seen before it happens, giving you some amazing choices. And one of the big things that they realize is there's more opportunity right now than there's ever been on the planet. And for all of us, and by the way, I'm going to say that again, for all of us, if you blow away the fog, which is usually caused by the news, because bad news sells and good news doesn't sell. And if there is no bad news, they give you the anniversary of bad news. But when you blow all that stuff away, there is a giant mountain that we're still at the base of opportunity for all of us to shape a much better future for ourselves, because the technology is there allowing us to do things today that were impossible just 12 and 24 months ago. And by the way, 2 years from now, we'll be doing things that are impossible to do today. And most of those you can clearly see if you take the time to look. Matter of fact,
fascinating.
Those who are listening, if you want to, it doesn't cost you anything. If you went to Burrus, BURRUS.com, on the homepage, just scroll down one little notch. You can get and download my 25 technology-driven hard trends that will give you, doesn't cost you anything, to be able to see some of the things and stimulate you in that way.
And I've done that at BURRUS.com. It's an amazing piece of content that you put out for free, by the way. And of those trends, what are you personally most excited about? What keeps you late into the night studying, reading, researching? Maybe one of the top 1, 2, 3 that you can highlight for the viewers right here.
Well, number one is the power of a shared vision that is beyond ego. What I mean by that is us humans are amazing. Oh my God. You see, we live in a technical world. Yeah. You know what? We live in a human world. And it's all based on relationships. And by the way, there are good relationships and bad relationships. Good relationships are based on high levels of trust. And trust is earned through honesty, integrity, delivering on promises. In other words, shared global values. So when we are operating at high levels of honesty, integrity, and values, getting high levels of trust, and we go beyond our ego and we set a vision that is beyond my glorification, but rather helping uplift us all. Oh, humans can do amazing things. And I've met so many young people. I've met so many middle-aged people. I've met so many 80 and 90-year-old people that are bright lights. And I don't know if you know what I mean by that, but sometimes I meet someone in there, it seems like they got a very dim light there. By the way, they could beef it up if they wanted to, but they're operating at a much lower capacity. However, there's an internal rheostat they could move up. They just haven't done that. But I've met so many people that are just bright lights that are embracing the opportunities, can see that we can use these tools to do amazingly wonderful things. I'm not worried about us. I think we're going to end up doing real well. But with that said, at any point in time, there is an up and a down, a left and a right, a yin and the yang, a black and a white, a heaven and hell. In other words, we live in a duality that will always exist, always has existed. So if you want to find hell, you could probably find it in your neighborhood right now. If you wanted to find someone doing something as saintly and heavenly as you could possibly imagine, you could probably find it in your neighborhood right now. We have choices. So the real question is not where other people are going, where do you want to go? And where do you want to take the people that are around you? So to finish my little comment about an anticipatory leader, here's another really big one. And that is, they're not focused on living a successful life, because success is all about you. It's about how many plaques you have on the wall, how big your house is, how much money you make, the position in your organization. It's all about you. Instead, what they're doing is they're focusing on living a significant life, because significance is what you do for others. And when you can elevate when you can in a significant way elevate others and help others, you'll find yourself being highly successful. So instead of success being the goal, I believe success should be a result of being a significant employer, or a significant employee, or a significant entrepreneur versus a successful one, or having a significant company instead of just a successful one, or perhaps being a significant parent instead of just being a successful one. I'm planting a few seeds for us to think about after this podcast, to ask ourselves those things. And I think what you'll find is you'll come up with some answers that will lead you to self-elevation.
Wow, that's so much food for thought and very inspirational. One of the reasons I'm such a fan is that I'm one of millions of followers on social media, whether it's like 1.3 million followers and connections you have on LinkedIn, or many more on Twitter and Clubhouse and other platforms. What's been the secret of your success on mastering this new media, social media? Any tips or tricks or insights you could share with me and the viewers?
Well, absolutely. There actually are many. One is to just get started. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, as the old Chinese proverb said. And when I was on LinkedIn in the beginning, I had no followers. I had nothing, just like anyone else who was just getting started. But I decided to learn rapidly. So when I would write a blog or write something and put it on there, most of us, whether it's on LinkedIn or just writing blogs, because I also write blogs, we just kind of put them out there. But what I did is I would put them out, and within a day, I would start saying, how many people are reading it? How many views do I have? And how many comments do I have? And I've got some on LinkedIn, for example. There's one I just came across the other day. It's got over 500,000 views. That's a lot of views, by the way.
Wow.
500,000 views. Now, I have another one that has 31,000 views. I've got another one that has 8,000 views. Now, that's a big span. Now, here's my point. I thought all those blogs were good. See? But somehow they didn't do the same. Am I just going to keep pumping them out there? Or am I going to try to learn what made that one so good and the other ones? And what kind of comments? I've had comments where I might have 30 comments. I've had comments where I've had thousands of comments. By the way, on comment number 999, I've got somebody asking me for saying, I want to book you for, and in some cases that was a 5, in some cases a 6-figure, in some cases a 7-figure thing coming out of a comment that was dug down. They didn't email me. They didn't call my office. They actually invited me to the thing, which was big, in a comment way down below. Are you reading your comments? Are you checking these things out? Well, see, all right, I'm just helping you out right now. You're missing things. I have made amazing amounts of money on comments. And by the way, I got insights. So I started learning. Let me give you a couple things I'm learning. I've learned a lot, but let me give you a few right now. One, the title of whatever it is you're putting out there is really important. And it needs to say something like, I know something that you don't know that you would really want to know. It's got to have something like that in it. So I've got something. By the way, I've also found that a number in the title is really good, but if you put numbers in your titles all the time, then it won't work because they get wise to you. Also, the first paragraph, really important. And in many cases, it helps to ask a question in the beginning that they already know the answer to. Let me give you a quick one. Let's say I'm writing a blog about education. I might start out with, are we teaching students at every level to live in a world that is ceasing to exist? Now, I'm not going to tell them the answer. You already know the answer. And because you've already said to yourself, yeah, you've already bought into my entire article. You're already on my side. You're already saying, this guy, hey, yeah. And so I don't have to convince you. You convinced yourself with the answer to the question I asked you without me telling you the answer, because you already knew it. You see what I'm doing? So, by the way, that's also called engagement. So there's ways you can draw people in. Actually, I've just started launching a class on LinkedIn called Wealth and Impact. And,
Wow.
And it's the LinkedIn Wealth and Impact Academy. And if you're interested, you could go on my website. I don't have it advertised on my website, but if you can communicate to me through my through there or through LinkedIn if you'd like, if you're a member. And I'll tell you about it. And I call it Wealth and Impact because it's how to do 6- and 7-figure monetization of LinkedIn. For the last 12 years, I've been doing 6 and 7 figures just off of LinkedIn every year for 12 years in a row. And I'm sharing how to do that. But it's also the impact part, by the way, as you could guess. That's the significant part. How do you, because I know a lot of people that have followers, but does that mean you're a thought leader?
No.
No, not at all. You just might have a lot of followers. And it's also who is following. For example, one of the followers I have on LinkedIn is the Prime Minister of South Vietnam. I've got people like that in there. So who is your followers? And by the way, who are your connections? And do you know algorithms make a big difference? By the way, let me give you a tip. To just give you a quick little tip so you can see how this works. On LinkedIn, if you are writing an article or you're posting a video, but you have some words in there and you want people to buy your product, your book, or book you for consulting or whatever it is, and you put that at the bottom with a little link, the LinkedIn algorithms will massively diminish the spread of that particular blog. Massively diminish it. The algorithms do that. However, if you instead you are the first comment in the comment section and you put how to get more, the algorithm doesn't catch that, and now boom, you go forward and it actually elevates you. Now that is just one little algorithmic hack that I gave you, but there are so many things in LinkedIn that people don't know. For example, have you seen people with a picture like this versus like this? Well, when you're staring right into the camera on your picture, it actually creates, this is research, over 60% more engagement by people that are connected to you versus when you're not looking at it. So there's all these little things that are actually a big thing.
Wow, that's amazing. And I can't wait to join the webinar and just consume all of this content around business and marketing and wealth and technology. So thanks so much for being here on my live stream. I'm a huge fan and look forward to participating at Burrus, BURRUS.com, and catching you on Clubhouse, another one of these emerging social media platforms that's on fire. So look, have a great day, Daniel, and thank you so much for sharing your insights and wisdom for the last half an hour. Much appreciated.
Well, thank you too for having me on, and let's actively shape the future. Thanks.
Thanks. Take care.
You too.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.